Welcome back to the Great Primeval Show. I am the Archminister, and I'm joined by Ancient Realms and Hodgepodge. Today we'll be breaking down Episode 3 of Primeval Series 1. Again, also known as Helen Makes Contact in North America,
Unter Wasser
in Germany, and
La Clé du Temps
in France. Written by Adrian Hodges and directed by Cilla Ware.
Starting out at a swimming pool, these lifeguards are either in uniform or as matching colours as a couple. Late night swimming on their own? Surely nothing can go wrong, right? The woman, Diane, leaves the man, Anthony, alone to continue his laps. Odd that he doesn't investigate this though. I love the shot of this thing in clear water so we can get an accurate look at the size and colour of it as it is menacingly lining itself up with the diving board. How did he not see that? The theme associated with it is also very similar to Jaws in its melody. Anthony Barton becomes fish food in debatably the most iconic human death in the show. That was both amazing yet terrifying. Chilling to think he would still be alive inside the creature since it swallowed him whole. The shot cuts to bubbles swirling in the pool as his fate is sealed. It's quite scary honestly, and proves that nowhere is safe from predators from the past. This idea of a creature jumping out of the water to attack prey was borrowed 8 years later in Jurassic World.
Anthony?
I like the fact that it appears curious to see what's beyond before cutting away. There is an extended scene of this sea monster swimming before the attack and also swimming past the window.
What's that coming over the hill? Is it a monster? Is it a monster? What's that coming over the hill? Is it a monster?
In the novelization of this episode and episode 4, called Dangerous Dimension, there are a number of changes between it and the episode. The mosasaur just attacks Anthony in the water. Diane sees the mosasaur sitting on the side of the pool, not through the window. And lastly, there is lots of blood in the pool. This was almost certainly changed for censorship. Note also that you never see the anomaly during this scene, despite it being within the swimming pool. The novelization indicated the anomaly was invisible underwater, most likely because it was so translucent it blended in with the water. This swimming pool was filmed at the Crystal Palace National Sports Centre. Interestingly, the window which was shown being cracked in the episode was later damaged in real life in 2020 and resulted in the pool being drained for repairs. The location is likely a nod to Crystal Palace Park, where famous vintage dinosaur sculptures reside. Cutter, Claudia and Lester attend a meeting at the Home Office discussing the anomaly phenomenon. This follows from the last episode. On seemingly a live stream, Connor is demonstrating the selective magnetism of the Carboniferous anomaly, which is still open, unlike the Permian anomaly in the Forest of Dean.
As you've just heard, this one shows no sign of weakening.
As far as we know, this anomaly is still open, which is interesting. The previous novelization indicated the site was going to be sealed forever, possibly with concrete like they later do in Series 2, Episode 4.
We'll start by sealing the anomaly site with a few thousand tons of concrete. That should do the job.
We see scientists performing research on the anomaly. Makes you wonder what tests they did or if they ventured through. This scene was likely filmed during the production of Episode 2, since Andrew Lee Potts and the scientists are in the underground filming location.
Who's that it is?
This is Lester's first acknowledgement of Connor's existence in the show. What a way to be introduced to him. Though possibly he could have met him during Episode 1, when Connor signed the Official Secrets Act off screen.
Looks like a half-wit, but he has a very good brain.
A bit harsh.
We may stand on the brink of Armageddon, but at least we have an irritating student on our side. How reassuring.
At least Lester's humour survived the experience.
The anomalies may be intermittent, and they fade from time to time, but they never completely disappear. Ancient civilizations spoke of monsters and dragons. Perhaps they weren't as naive as we assume.
Mythical and legendary creatures is a clever way to incorporate the anomalies and creatures into human history and folklore. Strangely, whilst Cutter brings up myths here, it's seemingly forgotten about until Series 3 when it becomes relevant again as a plot point. Cutter also builds an anomaly prediction matrix based on mythical creatures and legends. This could be another way of explaining cryptids as well, which also isn't really talked about until Series 3.
The anomalies are conclusive proof that the past exists, and a fourth dimension as real and solid as those we already know. Our job is to predict and contain them.
We get Cutter's monologue from the previously intro sequence for Series 1, and his plan for dealing with the anomalies. In the novelisation, Cutter brings up the campsite that he found in the Permian in Episode 1 here. Interestingly, this line
We need to establish what
Thank
happened.
you, Professor.
is referring to the campsite, so those lines were likely cut. Since the establish line is left in, this does leave room for interpretation on what Cutter wants to establish. It could be the establishment of the Anomaly Research Centre we see set up in the new timeline in Series 2 onwards. However, Lester cuts him off here, so no arc yet. Perhaps if a certain vegetable were attending this meeting, this may have gone differently. We joke, but a personal headcanon of ours is that in the new timeline, Oliver Leake was one of the biggest proponents for the arc being established, albeit for his own power-hungry purposes.
And I intend to be very, very powerful.
Lester of course interrupts to make sure Cutter knows he's in charge.
It appears we may have another one.
Cutter's visible interest is consistently great.
Back at the hospital from the last episode, Stephen is recuperating after his encounter with Mr. Plura, first name Arthur.
You know, it's not until you got bitten that I felt that one of us might actually die from doing this.
Connor predicts that dealing with the anomalies could lead to certain characters' deaths. Keep that in mind for the show going forward.
You must have gone through hell.
And back? Again, it is nice to see how brotherly Stephen and Connor are to each other already.
If you get killed, can I have your iPod?
This is low-level foreshadowing, which is a bit awkward.
I can do the girl thing, you know.
Abby turns up in an outfit to impress Stephen, seemingly, still enamoured by him.
Don't flatter yourself. Some of us just like hanging out with nurses.
Connor, don't make things weird.
I'm being weird, aren't I?
I just no need my girlfriend's picking me up.
Uh-oh, Abby just got friend-zoned. Abby's reaction says it all. Getting friend-zoned is pretty awkward, though she hides it well.
She's been in the rainforest for 2 years researching infectious diseases.
We never find out what specifically Alison was looking at. I sure hope it wasn't pheromones.
Let's hope she's not one of those girls that brings her work home with her.
Must have missed her.
Abby sounds so annoyed at this, but can't show her true feelings.
How much sex are they going to have over the next few days?
Again, Connor says more inappropriate things, only rubbing salt in the wound of friend-zoned Abby.
Well, so much for the girl thing.
I think you look great.
Despite this line coming across as comedic, Connor does his best to make Abby feel better, though she doesn't quite clock he's got feelings for her yet. At the swimming pool, Diane is put under arrest as the lead suspect of Anthony's disappearance, for lack of a rational explanation.
Pretty obvious she killed her boyfriend, but we don't know what she did with the body.
As shown in the episode, you may question what evidence the police have that Diane murdered Anthony, since he just disappeared. This was explained in the novelisation, as there was lots of blood in the pool, thus the police had evidence. Diane is looking fittingly upset, and probably annoyed at being bereaved and falsely arrested at the same time.
Just keeps babbling on about monsters and sea serpents.
Again with the monsters? But are we walking with them? Mentioning sea serpents is interesting too, since the creature in question is actually quite serpentine, and may have even inspired such myths itself by coming through anomalies earlier in human history.
Anthony Barton was killed by an ancient marine predator, which then returned to its home millions of years in the past.
Despite having signed the Official Secrets Act back in episode 1, Cutter decides to completely break it in this scene, which is odd. It's also ironic since he grilled Connor and Abby for doing exactly the same thing in the last episode.
But you just couldn't keep your mouth shut.
Who are you people?
Cutter was possibly trying a double bluff here to this detective to throw him off the scent. Even so, it's kind of risky to just explain exactly what's happening when it's supposed to be a secret. What if this guy decided to follow up on this case? He is a detective after all. Claudia seems annoyed. And either way, revealing the anomalies to the public seems to be something Cutter is in favour of in Series 1.
We could start off by telling everyone the truth.
I'll do what I can for her.
Both Cutter and Claudia are concerned for Diane's imminent incarceration, so at least Claudia says this. Note that in the background you can see Stephen swimming in the pool, searching for any evidence. In the novelisation, Stephen finds a reptile scale in the pool. Interestingly, it's greenish-grey and not brown.
Do you know, with all this chlorine in the pool, I'm surprised the creature even came through. To a reptile, it would have been like swimming in a bucket of acid.
Connor states some good real science here, as the chlorine in swimming pools is harmful to animals such as reptiles and amphibians. I really like seeing the team taking samples of water here, as it shows they're not just concerned about the creatures, but the effects of the anomalies on the environment too. It's cool that you can see the scar from the Arthur Pluribite on Stephen's left collarbone too, which is a nice attention to detail.
So, how's Alison?
Connor tries to strike up a conversation about Stephen's girlfriend once Abby is out of earshot, though Stephen also doesn't realise he's talking about Abby.
You see, it's funny, because you always give the impression like you were single.
Connor, I'm flattered, but you're really not my type.
He's gay.
Well, I never said he was, I just said he could be.
The police have charged Diane Johnson.
I know.
In the Home Office, Claudia pleads to Lester to let Diane go, but Lester's logic is to keep her locked up so as not to spread rumours and panic. Is one person really going to cause chaos? They didn't do the same with Ben Trent and his teacher, or did they?
And would you rather tell the police that an ancient sea monster is cruising our swimming pools consuming lifeguards?
Well, Cutter actually did just tell the police that.
I'll see that the charges are dropped when the immediate crisis is under control.
That could take months.
Interesting that Claudia says the immediate crisis could take months. Is she referring to the incursion, Anthony's body being missing, or the anomalies in general? This is interesting, considering the only 2 anomaly incursions they've encountered so far. In both cases, the immediate crisis were both dealt with within a matter of days. Alternatively, she may be referring to the legal process of having her found not guilty of Anthony's murder. Either way, Lester refuses to let up and remains quite distant and cold during this episode.
That's the burden of government.
At a local reservoir with people going about their happy lives, everything seems calm. I like the transition to beneath the surface, and showing the sea monster cruising past in the murky green water. The fact that there are multiple people in kayaks above shows how close the danger is.
And as for its table manners...
Something amorphous starts rising to the surface in quite a spooky shot.
Don't move that chump back!
This is quite grotesque as far as practical effects go, but well done. The reservoir was filmed at the Stoke Newington West Reservoir, a popular water recreation area.
Well, the DNA is conclusive. It's the boy from the swimming pool. Or what's left of him.
Again, the Home Office must have the fastest DNA results on the planet. They both collected the meatball and confirmed it to be the remains of Anthony in a matter of hours. The remains look quite digested here with the photos. However, it's only been a few hours since Anthony's death, suggesting some time dilation on the other side of the anomaly. Or perhaps Mosasaurus just have really fast-acting digestive systems.
It's a bolus. A regurgitated mass of flesh and bone. The beast swallowed them whole and then vomited up what it couldn't digest.
It's nice to see that in this fictitious show, we're still getting tidbits of real factual information. Boluses can be found in a variety of living animals, most notably birds of prey. Reptiles aren't known for producing boluses, so it's likely this was due to it swallowing him whole so rapidly.
Maybe there never was an anomaly.
Lester would love this to be true, but then the show wouldn't happen.
It's very likely, provided you also believe she swallowed him whole and then drove 20 miles down the motorway to regurgitate his remains.
Loving the line delivery here. It's so Scottish. Also, interesting image.
They don't just open, they move.
This is one of Cutter's many theories that turns out to be correct. Also a new phenomenon as explained later.
How are you? Alright.
Nice to see that Cutter and Ryan are on good terms here after their little punch-up in episode 1.
I need detailed local maps.
Should I be asking why?
It's just an idea.
Cutter is already formulating a plan to explain how the creature came through at both the swimming pool and the reservoir.
Do you know what I miss? Those soul-crushingly dull civil service meetings, which made suicide look like an exciting career option.
Wow, Claudia. The timeline would like a word with you.
I used to sit there praying something would happen in my life.
Careful what you wish for.
Abby and Stephen are collecting more water samples whilst Connor probes the water with a stick. Seeing the manpower of all the soldiers and divers performing this search is much appreciated. If this was a small team like Torchwood, for example, these large searches would be impossible. I never thought I'd say this, but Connor's putting his stick to good use by probing the reservoir with it. Wait, Molly?
This isn't a reservoir anymore, it's a tidal lake. The water's literally pouring out of it.
It's cool to know that water can pass through anomalies just as easily as people and creatures do.
Which means it's still down there somewhere.
I like the shot of these three watching, knowing that there's something unseen beneath the water. It's quite foreboding. Geese? Or wait, maybe they're swans?
Ducks, geese, ponds.
Thinking about Helen.
Cutter is again thinking about Helen, and we hear a piano motif that's often used when talking about her in Series 1.
Whatever I'm doing, she's always there. She never really goes away.
Cutter hints at Helen's return, but Claudia misses it, likely thinking he means emotionally, not actually not going away.
All the people in the world to hallucinate about. Stephen chose Helen.
Claudia tries to probe Cutter for information about what Stephen said to him last episode. However, Cutter changes the subject.
Steam. The tide must be coming in, bringing in warmer water from the other side. The steam is telling us exactly where the anomaly is.
Yes, the oceans in most periods of the Earth's past would have had a much hotter temperature than frigid old England. Without a detector, the team still have to rely on context clues to find anomalies at this point. Everyone gets prepared with Cutter and Stephen wetsuiting up, ready for a chilly swim.
Just thinking of all the paperwork I'll have to do if you drown.
Claudia's method of flirting is constantly joking about work regulations. Much like the steamy seawater pouring through the anomaly, it's pretty hot. The cast actually got taught how to dive for these scenes. Based on the audio commentary from Series 2 Episode 4, this was likely the most expensive episode to shoot in Series 1, due to all the underwater scenes and safety crews involved. I wouldn't be surprised if these Special Forces divers are actually just divers and not actors.
It looks better in a wetsuit.
Abby can't help herself, even right after finding about Stephen's girlfriend. Again, Connor's right there.
I can do the action stuff as well, you know. I'm not just a massive intellect. Yeah, and he'd also just been poisoned by a giant centipede that might have affected his judgment just a little bit.
Nice to see that despite Connor's sleaziness in Series 1, he's still willing to defend his new friend. Bros before dinos?
You know, you're right. He's a two-timing weasel, and maybe you should put that down to experience and move on. You know, there's plenty more fish in the sea.
Poor choice of words, Connor. Though it's not a fish, and it's not in the sea. This is a very cool transition showing the full length of the sea monster as the team swims through its new territory. Abby and Connor are collecting water samples. The novelization confirms that they're checking for water salinity. They theorize that there is a freshwater estuary beyond the anomaly, due to finding no salinity.
Abby? What's that?
Wait, how is that thing swimming in such shallow water? Also, it appears smaller than before. A Special Forces diver swims ahead and accidentally enters the anomaly just as it reopens. Odd that he doesn't come straight back, indicating the time difference similar to the digestion of the bolus, and probably why he's disoriented, or maybe he saw Helen au naturel. Note that the anomaly was invisible until the diver swam through, but then remains visible after. This was explained in the novelization as the anomaly was so transparent in the water that it was only visible when torchlight was shone on it. This didn't quite get translated/explained in the episode. Cutter and the divers are seen leaving the water. Oddly, they're back down by the anomaly in the next shot. This could just be an editing goof. The sea monster is suddenly in much deeper water here when it's supposed to be right next to Abby and Connor, who are only in waist-deep water in the reservoir. The water levels are questionable in this scene.
Don't move!
With the music rising, the sea monster seemingly waits for the movement in the water to pinpoint its prey. Abby and Connor make it to shore, just as a mouthful of teeth narrowly misses them. Unlike the Gorgonopsid attacking Ben in episode 1, it frustratedly can't reach them, though this doesn't stop it snapping at them. The sea monster also knocks some kayaks, which is good CGI/real life interaction. If you watch the Series 1 The Making Of, you can actually see this scene being broken down as it's made. In one of the more iconic moments of Series 1, Connor fends off the creature with an oar, even managing to get it inside its mouth, which is too much for the big sea lizard. Seeing how it can't reach them, it retreats. This is such a flawless transition between the practical and CGI when the sea monster enters the water. Shame to think that crawly creatures went to all the trouble to make the animatronic head for only about 2 seconds of screen time.
Months of dedication wasted.
I wonder if the head was supposed to be used for attacking Abby and Connor before becoming fully CGI. There is also extended footage of the animatronic head before diving. Cutter is still at the anomaly as the sea monster returns through. Note that you can see it's bleeding from the oar attack. The anomaly then closes immediately after it goes through, which is convenient.
This species of mosasaur is never referred to by a specific genus, but it's most likely a Tylosaurus due to its size, and also since it's a well-known genus that also appeared in Chased by Sea Monsters, and lived alongside the second creature we see later in this episode. Primeval has a tendency to use creatures that appeared in the Walking With series, so it seems like a reasonable assumption. The name mosasaur means Meuse River lizard, near to where the first fossils were discovered in Europe. They were not dinosaurs, but rather marine lizards, whose closest relatives are either snakes or monitor lizards that evolved in the Cretaceous. So when Connor says,
Some kind of mosasaur? Maybe 6 or 7 meters? Cretaceous, at a guess.
He should be able to be more certain, as the entire group is only known from this period. The first thing that strikes you about the primeval mosasaur is the crocodile-like scaled armour from head to tail. Tylosaurus does actually mean knob lizard, but is named for its pointed snout. Real mosasaurs, as marine lizards, would have been covered in smooth, streamlined scales so as not to weigh them down and to avoid drag in the water. It has Allosaurus-esque head crests, which no mosasaur had. These could be keratinous tissue, which wouldn't help it being able to swim through the water. These were likely added to make it look more menacing and unique. The snout is short and stocky, and the teeth are exposed with a lack of lips, similar to crocodiles, whereas mosasaurs are thought to have had lips like lizards and snakes. It also lacks any pterygoid teeth, a second row of teeth on the roof of the mouth, and lacks a forked tongue. Its head is quite shrink-wrapped, as is custom for most 2000s reconstructions of prehistoric reptiles. The adult mosasaur, which we see later, was approximately 20 metres long.
Anything from 2 to 20 metres in length and 2 tons in weight.
Far larger than any known Tylosaurus specimens, and in fact any known mosasaur. The largest Tylosaurus specimens are estimated at 12 to 15 metres long, making it one of the biggest creatures in the show. It appears to be opportunistic, as it eats anything it can, being a top predator. Mosasaur fossils have been found with various animals in their stomach cavities, showing they were in fact generalist predators.
Tiger shark's like a garbage can, it'll eat anything.
Mosasaurs are shown to be cannibalistic in the show. There is actually fossil evidence of aggression amongst mosasaurs, as there are fossils with bite marks thought to be from either another mosasaur of the same species, an example of intraspecific competition, or a different species, which would be interspecific combat. Either way, it's cool that the show included this. It's interesting that we see it in freshwater bodies, seeing as Tylosaurus was presumably an exclusively marine animal. Interestingly, a species of freshwater mosasaur, Pannoniosaurus, was described in 2012 after this episode aired. A study in 2011 showed that mosasaurs possess tail flukes much like sharks. This, however, was found well after production of this episode, so was not included. Overall, this thing is obviously not very accurate, whilst being a very iconic and cool design.
Connor relays the information to Cutter about their encounter. Cutter's line about fully grown mosasaurs is foreshadowing for later, although there were smaller species of mosasaur, but this doesn't seem to be the case. Nice to see that the Home Office is taking care of its civilian recruits, as Abby is being checked up on. Presumably Connor had already been checked.
They're all really upset about losing the diver.
This is one of the only times the soldiers are shown to be sad about losing one of their own. Shamefully, the soldiers are usually disposable. The red shirts of Primeval, a term meaning someone for the writers to kill who isn't the main character.
Something must have stopped him.
More hints that there's some more time dilation on the other side of the anomaly.
Then we've lost him.
Oh, don't worry, he'll turn up.
You saved my life.
I did, didn't I?
Abby thanks Connor for his daring defense, as she hugs him for the first time, indicating some reciprocated feelings for him. It's nice as this kickstarts their relationship, which gets developed more and more over the show's progression. They look like they're about to kiss, but this is still early days, however, as...
You can let go now.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry, I just...
In the novelization, they hug directly after the mosasaur attack. There is seemingly also a deleted scene of Abby and Steven talking, as seen in this promo. Back at the Home Office, Cutter theorizes yet more anomaly jargon.
The anomalies are time's equivalent of an earthquake.
I love this explanation, as it makes sense for a scientist to speculate how the anomalies work.
It could crash its way through into our time again, anywhere along this line.
Using a map, Cutter predicts that the anomaly will open again on a specific fault line based on the anomaly from the swimming pool and the reservoir. 3 episodes in and we've already had 3 different types of anomalies. It's really a shame that these fault line anomalies are never confirmed to reappear in the original show, though one does appear in episode 1 of the Canadian spin-off. Note also that the line that Cutter draws on the map doesn't match with the swimming pool or the reservoir's filming locations. There are also some additional notes written on the map, what looks like 02 in brackets next to the swimming pool and 01 next to the reservoir, and either 12/7 or 1217, D or B, C above it, which could mean anything. We also don't know along the line where the third location is.
Earthquakes, temporal fault lines. We're trying a little bit too hard, people. It's random chance, that's all. There's no connection with any of it.
Lester looks so unimpressed and dismisses Cutter's theories, likely not wanting to believe this amateur to be right.
Except that a good man is now permanently marooned in the past.
Claudia brings some humanity to Lester's line, mentioning the diver.
The press would be crawling all over us in seconds. How on earth would we explain it?
Lester still fears about any of this becoming public, though Cutter doesn't seem to mind, insisting that they station troops along the fault line.
I mean, you admit it's all conjecture.
Yes, of course it is.
At least these two can agree on something, I guess.
You people, you're worse than the climate change mob.
Well, in one cold day in July, suddenly it's the new ice age.
If and when the anomaly breaks through again, I guarantee you it'll be somewhere along this line.
Cutter still believes his theory to be right, though they don't appear to follow up on this. We then cut to suburbia, an unassuming and peaceful neighbourhood with some slightly uneasy music. No water in sight, which makes the viewer believe that surely no anomaly will open here. As this woman, named Mrs. Dexter in the credits, goes into her basement, you can hear an anomaly, although you don't see it. Not sure where it's supposed to be located in the basement, as it's never shown when the water starts trickling through. Also, wouldn't it just flood through if it's completely submerged on the other side? It seems to just stop halfway full later. Another thing to point out is the fact that it's very convenient that underwater anomalies always open in a body of water in the present, with the exception of this one possibly, though you don't actually see it. The mosasaur theme also starts playing again, suggesting danger. Mrs. Dexter somehow doesn't see the water, but notices her footprints are wet, and sees the water rising in the basement finally when she goes back down. No, the teddy bear! The rising water short-circuits the power as something with sharp teeth is seen underwater. This is the first time we see an anomaly open inside a residential house, the very premise creator Adrian Hodges wanted to capture with Primeval.
The idea we had from the very beginning was that we wanted people to feel that having watched this programme, they could go into their kitchen and find a dinosaur in their kitchen. You know, they actually would feel that close.
The Dexter house was filmed at 1 Grange Park, Ealing, North London.
I thought you said you got a leak in the washing machine, love, not an indoor pool.
Can you stop it?
Is she talking about his jokes or the leak?
Where's the leak, ma'am?
Well, your dog's enjoying a swim anyway.
You haven't got a dog.
Then why aren't you concerned about what could be in the water? It's weird that she just walks off. The bubbles coming through the anomaly possibly show a change in water pressure from the other side. This shot is so spooky as we see yet another creature from the past jump scare the plumber, who, ironically, probably cleared his pipes after seeing it. And we get Wilhelm number 4.
Are you alright?
This is technically the first dinosaur in Primeval, since birds are dinosaurs. When it comes to the Hesperornis, it's a fairly decent model accuracy-wise. Its name means western bird, as it was found in the western United States in rock dated from 85 to 72 million years ago in the late Cretaceous. This creature also appeared in Impossible Pictures' Chased by Sea Monsters. This model has webbed toes like ducks and geese, whereas the Sea Monsters model has lobed toes like grebes. It's still unclear which arrangement these animals had. Whilst the real animal did indeed have teeth, unlike modern birds, the teeth in the upper jaw did not extend to the end of the beak as seen here. The beak was also not as long as is seen here. It also has a very mobile tongue, which some birds are known to have. It makes hissing sounds much like an owl for some reason. I'm surprised they didn't use penguin sounds for them, as they produce very unique noises. They've been restored with really long, thin, swan-like necks. However, they may have had shorter, stiffer, puffier necks like those of penguins. Speaking of, they're correctly portrayed as living very similarly to penguins as aquatic birds.
They're flightless like penguins, but they're far from as cute.
It appears to be able to stand upright, which the real animal is thought to have been incapable of due to the positioning of its leg bones, though this is debated. It has external wings like penguins, however these may have been completely concealed in life, relying solely on their legs for swimming. It also looks like it doesn't have feathers, or maybe it does, but they're just really weird and scale-like? I don't know. The Hesperornis isn't the most inaccurate model, though it is very ugly, probably by design.
Again, we see the unused scene from episode 1 of Connor chasing Stephen and Cutter. Connor is suddenly inside, and is researching on his database again, this time about mosasaurs.
Mosasaur, eh? I was reading that.
Connor acts shifty when Tom and Duncan arrived, because last time on screen they pranked him regarding the creatures. The movie Battlefield Earth and director Jerry Anderson are mentioned. Duncan is wearing a Hawaiian-style shirt with Vans shoes.
It's DVD night. Your turn to get the pizza.
Connor, Tom and Duncan seemingly have a regular watch party together where they watch various movies, which is why they're surprised when Connor turns it down. What he's doing now with researching creatures for the Home Office is a bigger priority, though of course he can't tell them that. You can also see that Connor's being more defensive with what he shares with them, since last time he got shafted from the team for saying,
They're called anomalies? I've seen a Gorgonopsid.
Maybe he's still angry over our practical joke.
"Oh come on, that fake dinosaur was a masterpiece." It's apparent that neither Connor or Abby told Cutter or the others about Tom and Duncan's involvement with the prank, since they don't seem to be suffering any consequences.
Perhaps he's got a girlfriend. Nah.
I like how they just assume that Connor would never be the type to land a girlfriend. Well, not until Series 4 anyway, Caroline withstanding.
Unbelievable.
Said he wasn't interested.
How weird is that?
These nerds are shocked that Connor would have anything better to do.
Why the sudden obsession with dinosaurs?
Do you need a reason for that? Also, Connor literally told them he'd encountered a dinosaur.
It's not a dinosaur!
A creature, and they didn't believe him.
Which would be selfish. You know, I think we need to keep a closer eye on that boy.
Tom and Duncan becoming increasingly suspicious of Connor's activities foreshadows their involvement in the next episode. At the Home Office, Stephen's memories get triggered when he sees some images of the Alpha Plura and underground incursion from the last episode. Note that these are all screenshots from episode 2, though they're likely meant to be photos taken by the scientists from the start of the episode. Also, when Stephen has his flashback, he sees himself. I guess you could say it's an out-of-body experience?
I've been remembering things. You mean Helen?
Remembering Helen was there too, Stephen questions why Cutter hasn't told anyone. Cutter still isn't ready to share this information with anyone yet, especially since he hasn't actually met with Helen to confirm it himself.
Did you go looking for her?
It would have been interesting if Stephen wasn't bitten in the last episode. He possibly might have gone looking for Helen in the Carboniferous himself.
But if she was my wife, I'd go through a million anomalies.
Yeah, but she isn't, is she? Why keep on playing games with me?
Cutter indirectly mentions Helen's visit to the university in episode 1, as she always appears to be just out of reach, just like in episode 2 as well.
How long have you known she was alive?
Look, not long. She left you to die on your own.
Yeah, maybe she thought help was coming.
Maybe she didn't care.
Cutter does seem to be quite upset over the fact that Helen has been absent when she could have come back at seemingly any time.
Thought about nothing else for 8 years. You gonna tell the others?
No, it's not my call.
Even though Stephen's feelings for Helen is so apparent in this scene, he still prioritizes his friendship with Cutter and lets him make the move when he's ready to.
But she was important to me too.
I know that.
It's nice to see that despite arguing, these two still care about one another. Also note that Cutter's still holding his fault line map, probably waiting to gloat in Lester's face when his theories proved right.
Claudia informs Lester about the plumber's attack.
I'm not surprised. Have you seen how much these people charge?
She claims that the damage was done by some kind of large reptile.
I mean, it was a bird, but sure.
And I suppose you're going to tell me this town lies directly on Cutter's mythical fault line. I'm really beginning to dislike that man.
I really hate that man.
Once again, Cutter was right.
Of course I was right.
Which really makes Lester's blood boil. The Special Forces diver from earlier drifts through the anomaly, and I love the mysticism of how it's shown. This whole shot appears to be composited, and not actually filmed in the water.
All units, a second body has been found in the basement.
Oh, the plumber actually died? Sorry for the plumbing joke. Captain Ryan and the soldiers are seen wearing civilian clothes for the only time in the series here, probably to disguise their reason for being in a suburban neighbourhood, and to keep a low profile, since Lester mentioned earlier that soldiers would draw attention from the press. I wonder what happened to the Dexter family. Presumably they were evacuated and kept away from the incident, but the anomaly is still shown to be open at the end of the episode, so they couldn't safely return. Mrs. Dexter couldn't even finish her laundry. Perhaps their basement was filled with concrete, like in Series 2, Episode 2.
Shall I speak to the contractors?
No, don't worry. I'll get myself a shovel and a cement mixer and do it myself. Yes, of course you should speak to the contractors, you idiots.
The dead Special Forces diver has a handkerchief around his arm with the initials HC, just like the camera they found in Episode 1.
It's HC, it's Helen Cutter.
And Ryan notices this and retrieves it.
I want the press kept as far away from this as possible. If we have to, we go with an escaped crocodile story.
Lester attempts to try and form a cover-up story, since the incursions have been quite public so far, compared to the last 2 episodes. This escaped crocodile story sounds very similar to the incursion in Series 3, Episode 1.
Apart from that, we deny everything.
Typical government avoiding responsibility. Again.
They found a body in the basement. Special Forces diver.
Great. The music playing as Claudia arrives has no right being so damn good. Note that you can see a civilian in the background being ushered back into their house by a Special Forces soldier. Also, the deceased diver's body is being loaded into a car and not an ambulance. They really want to keep everything undercover.
What is it?
Oops, he's been busted. Claudia looks so angry here. In the novelization, there's a really weird plot point. Cutter and Stephen somehow arrived at the Dexter house first, before the Special Forces, because they were searching every body of water along the fault line. This logistically doesn't make any sense, as how would they know to search this house specifically for water in the basement, unless they were knocking on doors of every house along the fault line? Thankfully the episode drops this, and it appears as though Cutter and Stephen just arrive with the soldiers.
Helen's mad old aunt used to give us those handkerchiefs.
We definitely need this backstory fleshed out. I wonder if Cutter has a stack of these handkerchiefs in his house.
That's a message. It means Helen's waiting for me on the other side of the anomaly.
What exactly was Helen's plan with the diver? Was he already dead, or did she kill him? How did she push the body back through the anomaly when it's submerged underwater?
Just like she was in the underground.
Yeah.
Why didn't you tell me? You lied to me. To all of us.
Technically not lying, but lying by omission. Understandably, Cutter withheld this information due to it being very personal to him, but given the circumstances, we all know it's the right thing to do to tell the others.
I just found out that my dead wife was still alive.
She might know things. Things that could help us. You had no right to decide what we should know and when we should know it.
I have the only right.
Claudia is naturally very annoyed at Cutter's betrayal, and takes personal offense to him not telling her. For the first 3 episodes, we've seen these two characters growing closer. Now Helen's return is driving a wedge between them, leading to more arguments.
Maybe in your mind that gives you some kind of special privilege. But this affects all of us. If you can't see that, you just can't be here anymore.
Claudia threatens Cutter with being axed from the team, just like Connor was last episode, and she has no other option but to call Lester in to brief the rest of them.
My memory's back. Some of it, anyhow, enough to know why you're angry with me.
Meanwhile, Stephen addresses his feelings for Abby, who rebuffs him since she's moved on since their scene at the start of the episode. Also, what the flipping heck is that sledgehammer for?
Should have been thinking about your girlfriend. I fancied you for a bit and now I don't, that's all.
Though she is still hurt by Stephen's actions, you can still hear Abby's flirtiness towards him. Allison gets the final mention ever here, as according to Stephen,
She and I, we don't know each other that well anymore.
Implying that they might break up.
The revelation that Helen Cutter's still alive changes everything.
She's still alive? How did I miss that?
It's a long story.
I love how everyone just forgot to tell Connor this, though this is likely the first time Abby is also hearing the news.
How are we going to explain Celebrity Love Island to her?
Shut up, Connor. Also, look at Lester's face here. He's so over life at this point.
She's 8 years ahead of us in terms of understanding the anomalies. Her knowledge could be priceless, and we have to share it.
Which is fine if she was here, but she isn't.
Which is why we're going to go and find her.
Seeing how Helen could potentially be 8 years ahead of the team with understanding anomalies, Lester takes the operation into his own hands and decides to collect/arrest/recruit Helen for her to share her information.
This is my wife you're talking about.
Lester is unfazed by this, and knows exactly which buttons to push to get Cutter to cooperate.
Which is why I want you to go through the anomaly and bring her back. You will, of course, have a military escort.
I love how Cutter reacts to all this, acting surprised that anyone would dare to fraternize with Helen.
Thank you. Touched.
The alternative is you sever all ties with the Anomaly Project with immediate effect, and we'll go and find her ourselves.
Is blackmail allowed within the workplace? It's not actually confirmed if Cutter and the team are employed or just consultants.
Okay. On one condition. I go on my own. There's no question of force. I'll do my best, but if she doesn't want to come back, then that's it.
Ever the Maverick, Cutter only agrees to help on his own terms, and without Ryan, who was presumably going to accompany him. Since their brief punch-up in episode 1, Cutter wants independence, typical Scott, and his own chance to find Helen without being interrupted. Lester also doesn't really care if Cutter gets hurt going alone, since he signed the disclaimer in episode 1.
We don't want any nasty lawsuits if you don't come back.
How can we trust you?
Claudia is doubting Cutter again since their argument, and has lost some trust over him keeping secrets. And I love Cutter's prolonged stare at her, indicating his conflicted feelings of being judged.
Oh, I'm sure Professor Cutter won't let us down again.
Wow, that was savage. Lester also appears to be ganging up on poor Cutter.
You will try and remember what side you're on, won't you?
Has he really done anything that wrong? Give the guy a break.
I wonder what Lester and Claudia are arguing about here. It seems pretty serious. Perhaps now Claudia is arguing against trusting Cutter, and Lester is saying he's their closest thing to an expert. Or maybe she's arguing against Lester's plan to acquire Helen.
Okay, you've got about an hour of air and a mile of rope.
Keep this in mind for later.
Take a compass reference as soon as you get there.
But compasses don't work near anomalies because of the magnetism. This was established in episode 1.
Compass is going haywire.
Stephen mentions intense water pressure when going through the anomaly. This could have been what killed the diver.
No pressure then?
The water temperature would also be much higher, considering the reservoir was steaming earlier.
Now this has an effective range of about 10 meters. If you have to use it against a predator, wait till you see the whites of its teeth.
Stephen seems particularly proud of this weapon. Again, it's nice to see how well Cutter and Stephen work together. With everything set, Cutter then swims through the anomaly to find Helen, as the dramatic and rising music helps build up the reveal. Note that the anomaly is closer to the washing machine than before, indicating that it's moved.
They don't just open, they move.
As he enters the past, the change of colour is a nice way to show the difference between times and locations, with the bright blue clear water indicating an unpolluted environment. The anomaly also appears to be in some seaweed, though this could just be the shard showing where Cutter came from. No notes, just enjoying the visuals and epic Cretaceous sea music track. The Hesperornis swimming around Cutter is simply beautiful, though it's odd that they're not acting hostile towards him like with the plumber. Cutter has too much plot armor, I guess. He also appears to have swam further out, since the anomaly isn't visible in this shot. Now, a small headcanon I like to believe is that Cutter returned the Ammonite from episode 1 back to the Cretaceous here. This appears to be a fully CGI environment, likely meaning that Dougie is in a pool for the filming of this scene. During the late Cretaceous, the continent of North America was divided by the Western Interior Seaway, aka
Hell's Aquarium. It's so jam-packed with killers.
Or maybe Helen's Aquarium in this case, a shallow inland sea that split North America into two land masses, Laramidia to the west and Appalachia to the east. If we assume the Cretaceous Sea seen here is in late Cretaceous Kansas, the same place as the Cretaceous segment of Chased by Sea Monsters, this would place it on the western shore of Appalachia, in which case all of the creatures seen here were indeed contemporaries, even the pterosaurs in the background. If these pterosaurs are Pteranodon, this could be alluding to its later appearance in episode 5. Perhaps they're even the same anomaly, they just opened in slightly different locations and altitudes. Pteranodon are one of the creatures that appear consistently within the show, mainly in the background. I really like when they have creatures in the background like this, as it really helps sell the idea that there really is this whole fleshed out world on the other side of the anomaly. Deinosuchus, a giant relative of crocodiles, also would have been living around this time and area. Some later appear in the Fire and Water novel. As this locale was also filmed in the volcanic island of La Palma, the same as episode 1, the geology of the bay is also volcanic in nature, specifically filmed at Ekentive Beach. Whilst Laramidia was heavily influenced by volcanism due to the uplift of the Rocky Mountains around this time, this is not thought to be the case for Appalachia. But this really is a nitpick, as it's still beautiful to look at. Interestingly, the location that Nick and Helen have their conversation is also the exact same place as one of the locations used in Dragons: A Fantasy Made Real. Much of this shot is digital, including the rock ridges, waterfalls and mountains in the background, which were composited in to make the landscape more dramatic. Note also that the rope Cutter is connected to is at its full length, implying that the anomaly is at least a mile away from the shore and not actually in the bay.
Nick arrives at the shore, which appears pretty desolate, though at least this time he knows Helen is here. There is a flock of Hesperornis, which don't appear to be put off by Cutter, although not too happy either. I like how they all stare at him, menacingly. In the novelization, Cutter can't remember the name of the Hesperornis, and thinks that Connor would know. Hearing a splash, Nick looks down. There's someone swimming in a crystal clear pool at the base of the cliffs.
Hello, Nick. I see you got my message.
Despite having known that Helen was alive for the past few weeks, the moment that Nick first sets eyes on her again after 8 years of her being absent from his life is poignant and impactful. I love the shock and slight bafflement in his reaction.
Thought with nothing else for 8 years.
This is the final main character's introduction for Series 1. The enigmatic Helen Cutter is finally shown in all her nudity. What an introduction. The fact that she's au naturel indicates that she feels at home in the past. This wide shot is the same from earlier, just without the Hesperornis, as you can still see Cutter on the beach. The pair reunite for the first time in 8 years in an extremely well written scene. Adrian Hodges once stated in an interview with Radio Times that he believes that this scene, and this episode in general, was one of the best things he ever wrote, and I definitely agree. It's just so well written and acted by Dougie Henshaw and Juliet Aubrey.
You've lost weight. You haven't been eating properly.
Helen immediately launches into some small talk, as if nothing's changed between them, probably as an attempt to soften the blow of explaining why she never came back.
You let me think you were dead.
I am dead as the person you knew. My old life ended 8 years ago.
It's interesting to speculate whether Helen actually spent 8 years in the past, or much less due to time dilation, as she doesn't seem so distant from their relationship compared to how Nick feels.
Now you can turn around. I'm decent.
I'm sure Nick does this out of respect, but surely they've both seen each other clothesless before.
It's nothing you haven't seen before, Paul.
There's no easy way to do this, is there?
Well, maybe we should just skip the small talk. Why didn't you come back?
Nick is obviously very hurt by the fact Helen could have returned at any time, but decided not to. Even now after they've reunited, there's little warmth between them, as the whole atmosphere of this scene is cold.
What are you really upset about, Nick? That I stayed away? Or that I didn't tell you what I was doing?
Both! Both!
I'm not upset, Helen. I just don't know who you are anymore.
This line finally makes Helen realise playing coy will not get her the result she wants, and she yields some information to Nick.
Your conscience would make you throw all this out there for everyone to trample over, and I wasn't ready to share it then.
This line parallels with Nick not wanting to tell others that Helen was still alive. Karma. This also links back to Nick initially wanting to tell the public about the anomalies in episode 2. Helen appears very selfish in this scene, as she wanted to have the past all to herself without distraction. Another parallel to Nick, who wanted to explore the Permian all on his own in episode 1.
Give me 1 hour on my own.
A Hesperornis decides it wants some more screen time, but gets distracted by a rock. The reflection of this one and the way that the other is animated underwater is superb.
Hesperornis. Scary up close, but cumbersome. And very stupid.
This line shows that Helen is equally as knowledgeable about creatures and prehistory as Nick is. Nick even smirks a little as she describes how stupid they are. Not sure if it's intentional or not, but they all look when she mentions their name.
What do you want, Nick? An apology? What's the point?
This implies that Helen had moved on enough that she didn't think to let Nick know that she was still alive. This is also evidence with the fact that she doesn't even apologise to him for it, not thinking it matters.
None of that matters now.
8 years of my life back would be nice.
People grieve and then they heal. It happens all the time. Why should you be any different?
This is kind of harsh, as she has no idea what kind of grief Nick may have gone through.
Why come back at all then?
Despite all these years, Nick still sees through Helen's manipulation and calls her out.
Let me guess, you want something?
I wonder what Helen has in that flask. Seawater?
Oh, you don't swallow it. It's just temporary until the plumbing's done.
According to the novelisation, it's tea. How British. Note that Nick doesn't actually drink any tea, and the cup cap is actually back on the thermos in the next wide shot.
You come back before. Would you watch me grieve?
Note how Helen doesn't actually respond to these questions, adding to her mysterious nature and withholding information. Maybe she did spy on him posthumously.
Did you come to the funeral?
No, was it good?
The idea that Helen could have witnessed her own funeral is such a delightfully morbid topic. Also the fact that Nick simply says,
"It's okay,"
is quite funny. Of course, said funeral wouldn't be a traditional burial since Helen was missing and not actually dead, so it likely would have been more of a memorial service.
I'll answer all your questions, Nick. All you have to do is come with me.
Helen offers Nick a chance to travel with her, which appears to be her motivation for getting him here in the first place. She can't have known that Nick was on a team investigating anomalies with the government, so maybe this was just meant to be her and him.
There are more anomalies than you can possibly imagine. I know how to find them.
This could also foreshadow the anomaly spaghetti junction we see in the next episode, as she later explains in the novel Extinction Event, as she uses that as a hub to get to different times. This is also seemingly before Helen had an anomaly detector, as seen in Series 2, Episode 2.
I asked you a question. Why do you want me now? After so long.
Nick doesn't back down from his question, seemingly ignoring Helen's priceless information about the anomalies, despite this being what he was sent here to do.
I want answers more than anyone.
I'm human.
Yes, you are.
I want to share this incredible gift, but only with you.
It's interesting that she calls it a gift, as if sharing her knowledge on where and how to find anomalies could be compensation for the 8 years of absence. Since Helen is technically still married to Nick, she feels a strong enough emotional connection to offer this to him, and no one else. Yet.
Nick, I have seen such wonders. Things you wouldn't believe.
Helen could be referring to literally anything from the past with this line. Anything from geological formations to mass extinctions to an undiscovered species.
You're asking me to abandon my life?
Nick is obviously conflicted over what Helen asks of him, as he's not so ready to just leave everything, likely also thinking about his friends and a potential new love interest with Claudia.
People are dying back at home and you want me to just run away with you?
Animals die, Nick. Species die. You know I'm right.
Nick scoffs at this notion that Helen just refers to humanity as another species, is almost insulting to his ideals, although she's technically correct.
One day, humanity will disappear just like the dinosaurs.
Oh, this line has not aged well due to the spoilers, the Series 3 plot of Helen trying to wipe out humanity. It definitely was not the intention for her character at this stage in the show.
Somebody's poisoned the water hole!
Nature doesn't care, something else will take our place.
This could be in reference to a certain megafauna bat yet to be introduced.
Nick, just leave all the other stuff behind.
Helen is obviously projecting a bit here, as she did the exact same thing 8 years ago, and she doesn't seem to care, which shows her lack of empathy and connection to other humans.
I've got a job to do, you could help me if you like.
Nick finally gets around to telling Helen why he came here.
You're rejecting me?
Helen finds it impossible to see anything from other people's perspectives, so almost can't believe that Nick would object. Also, Helen, you literally rejected him when you decided to leave.
I'm asking you to come back with me.
It's very poetic that both cutters are asking each other to come with them. Such strong-willed independent characters who equally don't take no for an answer.
I offer you the key to time. The key to time, Nick.
This is definitely intriguing, and obviously there isn't actually a physical key, being more metaphorical. But also the concept of having the ability to time travel wherever you want is tantalizing and would be tempting to anyone. Nick is in a very fortunate position here to be gifted this. Helen seems convinced that this is the greatest thing in the world, and since she's also of a scientific mind, this makes sense. A lot of people would jump at this opportunity, however Nick remains reserved and doesn't take the offer because of his strong connection to the present, and being alienated by Helen and her lack of human empathy.
Call yourself a scientist?
Call myself a human being.
With that, Nick literally storms off after failing to make his marriage work another time, again ending with
another row.
Perhaps the reason he decided to leave is because he forgot how difficult Helen could be. Seeing how he can't convince Helen to come back with him by his attempts to talk to her, he decides to go back to the future. I love Helen's face after Nick leaves. She looks so rejected, but doesn't hold anything against Nick. They both still respect one another. The novelization includes a line summarizing Helen's arrogance. Even after all this time, she had not expected her husband to rebuff her like this. As far as Nick is concerned, this could be the final time he's going to see Helen, since she refused to come back with him, though a lot can change in the last moments of the episode.
The drains, Stephen? In theory, a creature could make its way along the sewage system all the way to the river.
This appears to be a dropped plotline, as it's referenced and then never mentioned again. Connor is seen looking at the fault line map, and deduces that a mosasaur could make its way to the River Thames. It's curious if at some point in development, the following episode was supposed to follow up on this, but after this episode the incursion ends. Claudia turns up with a bunch of special forces equipped in diving gear, much to the team's confusion.
What's going on?
We knew Lester wasn't going to let Cutter have it all his own way.
The worst was over. Almost.
Back in the Cretaceous, Cutter is swimming back to the anomaly, having failed on acquiring Helen. Even if he did, I don't suppose she had her own diving gear as well. The anomaly appears to be in more open water now, possibly a mistake, or it's moved again. Note how the swimming Hesperornis are gone, indicating something has scared them off.
What would scare the birds away?
The culprit is finally shown as we get to see the full majesty of an adult mosasaur cruising above Cutter. This thing's size could rival the Walking with Dinosaurs Liopleurodon. Fortunately for Cutter, he's either too small to be worth preying upon, or it simply doesn't notice him. Something that large would be looking for a better source of food.
They will attack and eat virtually anything that moves. Sharks, turtles, giant squid, even other mosasaurs.
That being said, he's the perfect meal size for a younger mosasaur, and this one's likely already tasted human flesh, likely being the same individual from the rest of the episode, since it's hanging around the anomaly. Note this shot of the mosasaur is reused from the reservoir, but with the background changed. Adrenaline pumping, Cutter shoots the harpoon way too soon, as the armoured skin of the mosasaur deflects the damage, though it does start to bleed a bit, the blood in the water now being a lure for other predators. Cutter tries to swim back faster, but the mosasaur is too quick. For a second time the mosasaur misses, clearly because it's playing with its food. However, this time it manages to cut Cutter's air pipes, causing him to become even more disorientated. In the novelization, when the mosa bites the scuba gear, Cutter experiences searing pain on his back. It's not clear if it actually bit him or just ripped the wetsuit. In an attempt to escape, Cutter ditches the scuba gear to make himself lighter. So this is the second time they've left 21st century items in the past. No wonder there's so many timeline changes. The mosasaur goes in for another attack, this time looking like it's going for the killing blow. However, if you look in the background, you can see the silhouette of something much larger swimming towards its prey.
The ROV had seen it all.
Now that was epic. This is another example of the focal creature getting killed at the end of the episode, in a very dramatic and brutal end for this individual, as it becomes food for the larger mosasaur. The amount of blood is also quite heavy for a PG-rated show.
Still blood in the water there as well.
Cutter only just witnesses this before going unconscious, since he's lost his air tank. Without his team on standby, this would have been the end of the Professor.
Stephen, that's 2 hours. He'll be running out of air.
Thankfully, Abby gives the call to Stephen and Ryan to start pulling Cutter back, and fortunately the mosasaur didn't bite the rope in half.
He's lost his tank.
Quick, get him out.
Cutter!
Stephen shows his bond to Cutter again as he single-handedly jumps in and rescues Cutter from the water. Claudia then starts CPR, though she should have cleared his airway of water first. This is also technically the pair's second lip lock.
Was Helen with you? Yes. So she was there?
If I had a nickel for every time a Primeval episode had someone on a stretcher talking about Helen with Claudia, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
Tell them about Helen. She was there.
You know what to do.
Let's go.
Having been given the confirmation straight from Cutter, Claudia enacts Lester's plan.
Who's this?
Sorry, it's out of my hands.
What?
How long have I been out for?
Not long.
In an ambulance, Cutter slowly regains consciousness, and hopefully his lungs were drained of seawater, as that could have caused second drowning, and later infections, not to mention the unknown bacteria from the Cretaceous Sea.
I have to talk to Claudia.
Cutter probably wants to tell her the details of his encounter with Helen, and why he couldn't bring her back, though this all becomes redundant, as we'll see in a minute.
There's something you should know.
Connor and Abby, and probably Stephen, have all guessed what's happening, and try to inform Cutter about it before...
Stand still! Don't move! What's going on? Stay still!
Lester likely knew that Cutter would react to what he's about to see, so this was probably the right decision to send armed guards to stop him from coming any closer. Note also, Cutter must have been passed out long enough for Lester to change his shirt and tie for the occasion. It's revealed that Helen has been brought back by force, since Nick couldn't convince her otherwise, and both she and her husband seem shocked to see each other again so soon. Helen of course thinks that Nick has something to do with this, as we'll see in the next episode, whereas Nick is just baffled instead. The logistics of bringing Helen back through the underwater anomaly must have been a nightmare, especially if she fought back with her knife, possibly stabbing at least one of them. Also, how did they find her so quickly? Presumably the Special Forces had additional scuba gear to keep her from going the same way as her husband. Maybe they even picked up the stuff Cutter left. Menacing glances are shared between them, as well as Claudia and Lester, who obviously had this as a backup plan if Cutter failed, and seem pretty serious now since he lied about her being alive, so are taking no chances. Stephen is also shown here, and to be powerless to do anything in this situation, though not from lack of trying. Helen is then shoved into a Special Forces vehicle and taken away, as we leave on the first major cliffhanger ending for the show. This entire scene is shot so well, with no dialogue required, all through the reactions of the characters. The dramatic music also helps build up the tension as the episode ends.
For the first 3 episodes of Primeval, the video quality is noticeably grainy and lots of shaky cam is used. It's not just the DVD quality either, as this was apparent on the broadcast version as well. It's likely due to directing, filming style, or even the type of cameras used. Thankfully for the rest of the series, the picture quality is a lot clearer, and there are a lot more dynamic shots and the CGI scenes are not as stationary. The scripts for the first 3 episodes were all written before casting of the main actors. From episode 4 onwards, the writing is catered to the specific actors of the characters. An example of this is the story focusing more on Abby and Connor than Abby and Stephen, as Andrew Lee Potts and Hannah Spirit had more chemistry. In closing, episode 3 takes place over 2.5 days, and it's around 1 to 2 days between this and the next episode. Thank you for listening for the new and updated breakdowns of episodes 1, 2 and 3. Join us next time for the breakdown of episode 4 of Primeval Series 1.